Welcome to a special offering by Conversations with a Wounded Healer, the Burnt Out Practice Owner. This series will discuss the current state of group practice ownership, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll hear current and former practice owners' tales of glory and woe as we attempt to answer the ultimate question, why do we do this to ourselves? And we want to hear from you too. What have been your biggest moments of struggle or triumph? What are questions you want us to explore? I'm your host, Sarah Bueno. I owned and operated my practice, Head Heart Therapy, for 10 years before selling in 2023. Ownership was an equally grueling and rewarding experience for me, and I now spend my time helping current practice owners find balance for themselves. Join us between releases of Conversations with a Wounded Healer for this special series. Hello! Happy end of March and another happy burnt out practice owner episode. Can we say that we're happy burnt out practice owners? I don't know. But I'm happy you're here, and I'm excited to share an amazing guest with you who is a good friend of mine. And in this episode, I didn't know we were going to talk about feces, but we do. So if you want to know what group practice ownership has to do with feces, you have to listen to the rest of the episode. Now I have piqued your interest, haven't I? But before we get to the amazing stories and thoughts of Bianka Hardin, I need your help because this is a little baby indie podcast. I mean, I've been podcasting for 5 years now. We just had our 5-year anniversary. So I'm really proud of myself for doing this for 5 years, but I still need your help. And if you like what you hear, please share this with others. Let other practice owners know, people who are thinking about opening practices, even employees of practices, because I'm really trying to demystify what it is like to be in the practice owner role. And so in order to do that, people got to hear this shit. So please pass it around. To help me, you can also rate and review on Apple Podcast. Let me know what you think. I mean, I'd love a 5-star review, but I'm not the boss of you, so I'm not going to tell you what to do. But rate and review me if you can. This is also embedded in Conversations with a Wounded Healer, so feel free to listen to that too. I mean, it's all there free for your enjoyment, so please take advantage. Also, I really want to hear from you. I mentioned that in the intro. The way you can get in contact with me is by email at sarah@headheartbiztherapy.com or on Instagram at headheartbiztherapy. I want to hear from you, right? If you listened to the last practice owner episode, you heard some questions and comments from some amazing people that I know, and I want to hear from strangers. I mean, it's always pretty cool when a stranger's like, hey, I want to tell you something, or I want to ask a question of you. So I'm into it. So let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you want us to talk about, and I'm here for it. And lastly, you could hire me. I mean, if you really want to help me, if you like what I'm putting down and you're interested in getting some consultation in the flavors in which I like to share, I'm available for hire for consultation for practice owners. So reach out if you need anything. Now, on to today's guest. Bianka is a good friend of mine. Bianka Hardin is a licensed clinical psychologist and owner of Centered Therapy Chicago. She is invested in lifelong learning, personal and professional growth, teaching, and mentoring. She has taught at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology and has been a training assistant for NARM and SE. She provides professional consultation services to therapists and group practice owners and is committed to therapist training and development. So please enjoy my feces-filled conversation. Okay, it's not a feces-filled conversation, but we do talk about poop. So please enjoy my conversation with the amazing, lovely, wonderful Bianka Hardin. Hey there, therapist. How you doing? If you're like a lot of people out there, maybe you need a little bit more support than usual. Well, I've got you covered. I'm currently running 2 groups that I plan to run again in the fall of 2024. So add your name to the wait list to be notified as soon as info is available. First is the Burnt Out Practice Owner Support Group for group therapy practice owners. We'll focus on the emotional component of business ownership while building trust and connection with other practice owners. We'll explore topics such as boundary setting, feeling underappreciated, overwork, and find ways to reconnect with our agency. And you'll also have the support of other practice owners when challenges arise within your business. Next is the Authentic Leaders Group. It's here to help you become the authentic and wholehearted leader you aspire to be. Join me on an 8-month journey of self-discovery and leadership mastery, where you'll enhance your leadership skills and forge meaningful connections with fellow therapists who are committed to their own growth and the betterment of the therapy field. For the Burnt Out Practice Owner waitlist, go to www.headheartbiztherapy.com/burnt-out. Make sure you've got the T and BURNTOUT. And next is the Authentic Leaders Group waitlist at www.headheartbiztherapy.com/authentic-leaders-group. Hope to see you soon. Badass Bianka. Welcome to the Burnt Out Practice Owner.
Well, thank you so much, badass Sarah.
Yeah, so that the monikers are fitting because we have been in a badass practice owners group now since what year was it?
I want to say like 2018,
I was going to say 17 or 18 sounds right to me.
Yeah.
It might have been 17. Actually, I think it was 17 now that I think about it, because I think what was going on in my life at that time, oh yeah, that was 17.
We went down to a meeting at the Monadnock building for our first meeting as a group. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah. So we know each other's practice struggles and wins very intimately because we've been spending all this time. I mean, just to tell other people out there, like I formed this group because I was dying. Like I was dying as a practice owner. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I didn't know. I just felt so alone. And I saw some friendships that I had struggling because they were employees at a group practice and I was the owner of a group practice. So it was like I couldn't talk to them because every time I said anything, they got triggered by what I was complaining about. And so I was like, I need to be surrounded by other badass women who are doing this. And I reached out to you. I reached out to Georgia Jones and JB, handful of other people. And then y'all brought in Jennifer Panning and Farah. What's Big? Is that how we pronounce Farah's last name? And Melissa Novak, right? And Chrissy and Aga at Wildflower. Am I forgetting anyone? Sarah Suzuki was in it too, but she's out now.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And we've shared everything. We've shared our payroll structure. We've shared, literally everything. And that is what helped me get through to the other side.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was so honored to be invited and I didn't know what it was going to be,
Me neither.
I'm someone, I like to say yes. And I get really excited about connecting and sharing and just from an abundance space, like meeting with other women who own practices. To me, it can only be positive, and it really exceeded my expectations. And I don't know how I would have gotten through the pandemic and the major shift that we all went through without all of you.
Right.
And I learned so much, and we're all friends now,
right.
And we didn't know each other before. So, it's something I highly recommend all group practice owners to have your own support group because we can't do this work alone.
Right. Exactly. When I think about it, we went through the transition from 1099 to W-2s.
Yes.
We went through the pandemic, so we all did the PPP shit together. We've done major overhauls of payroll, all these big major things that I see most practice owners doing alone. So yeah.
It takes a village for sure.
It really, really does. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you.
And I'm so glad to be on that journey with you.
Me too. And I'm glad to be here with you today.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's hear more about you and your practice.
My practice is Centered Therapy Chicago, and I'm on the north side of Chicago in the Andersonville, Ravenswood, Uptown area. And we're having our 10-year anniversary this year.
Congrats.
So it's a big milestone. I founded the practice in 2014, and I really wanted to be in a group practice. I didn't want to be a solo practitioner. I was prior to being in the practice, I was in academia and I was in a municipal government setting. So I had many years of management experience and leadership experience and wanted to transition out of academia into a group practice because I believe that in order to do the work that we do, we need to be in community and we need to be holding up and supporting each other. And I wanted to have components of supervision, professional development, authentic connection. And so I started the practice in 2014. I had no idea what it would look like 10 years later. And
Right.
I would say that it's exceeded my expectations in terms of what we've been able to accomplish, and just the awesome experiences that I've had and what I've learned has been profound. But essentially, we specialize in trauma-informed, body-oriented, relational feminist therapy. And we see individual couples and families, all ages. And our practice is around 20 clinicians. So that's like the size of the practice.
Mm-hmm.
And we do supervision, professional development. We started a CTC training center where we offer CEUs and do professional trainings. And we also do doctoral training. So we have 4 practicum students and we have postdocs. So that's the scope of the practice. And we do in-person and virtual therapy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm curious, and I think a lot of listeners would probably benefit from hearing, given your background in managing, leading, all that sort of stuff before you owned your own business, what's different between what you did before in terms of management leadership style and what you do now as the practice owner?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question. What feels different is it's me. Whereas before I was I was in a municipal government setting, and I was a brand new leader, that was early career. I was the assistant director and director of the Department of Health and Human Services at the Village of Hoffman Estates. And what's different is it wasn't just me, so I was getting paid consistently. The productivity of anyone didn't depend on me. I had a lot of support in place. Things were really secure in terms of the structure there. And I was a member of a multidisciplinary team. So it felt really supportive as a place to learn how to be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And then I transitioned to academia, where I became the associate department chair, and I started a child and adolescent track and kind of went this academic route. And the thing that was different there about leadership was I was in a large institution focused on learning. And so there were a lot of opportunities for learning and growth. There were a lot of colleagues that I had. I could just go next door and talk to someone. And I was learning in both circumstances. I was learning something I wasn't trained to learn in grad school. So I never knew about working in a municipal government setting and talking to the board and the mayor and writing memos. And then in academia, I wasn't trained in how to do an academic catalog and, just the administrivia of working in academia or curriculum development. But I always felt like I was supported in my growth in both environments. And so what's different about being a group practice owner is it's just you. You just start off as a person doing this. And I honestly don't know how people do this without having more work experience, because I just made so many mistakes along the way, and I had so many opportunities for correction and learning and so many resources. So when I started my group practice, I had already had 10 plus years of experience in work environments and leadership roles. And so I think that's why I felt confident, I can do this and figure this out. But the difference is it's all on my shoulders. Especially in the beginning, before I developed the leadership team at my practice and developed the consultation groups that I'm in, like the Badass Female Practice Owners. And now I have a ton of consultants that I hire to support me in my learning.
Yeah.
So I think the big difference is I need to create the structures of support around me intentionally. And I need to pay for those.
Boom.
Yeah. Right? Because before they were just embedded in the systems that I was in.
Yes.
And so I just keep nurturing it and learning and growing and paying for, I believe in lifelong learning. So it's really up to me. That's the difference. I can just coast, but I'm not a coaster. I'm someone who really likes to continue to learn and grow. Yeah. So I think that is the difference. Is it's make your own adventure here in private practice. You set those structures up yourself, and there's more responsibility on you as an individual because it's your business.
Well, I love and I want to hone in for people who are maybe early in their group practice journey who don't recognize all of the systems and structures that you've built behind you and around you,
Yeah.
right? Like you said, paying for consultation. Yeah, I pay almost $1,000 a month for consultation, for business
Yeah. Yep.
consultation. And I don't know that people really think about that because I mean, just now that I'm going into this like consulting biz, recognizing how cheap therapists are because they don't want to pay for anything. But if you want to maintain your sanity, just
Yeah.
pay somebody else to help you. It's so much easier.
It's a beautiful thing. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
can't tell you how many people early on were asking me for free help.
Yeah.
And I am such a helper. I just am a generous person. And so
Yep.
what happened was like I just started to get busy and then I'm like, that's actually a lot of
Yeah.
time I'm giving away.
Yeah.
And I want to have an open heart. And so when I did it, I was doing it with an open heart. And then I noticed I was kind of starting to feel like, why aren't you
Resentful.
paying for consultation? Because I do.
Yeah.
And so, right, like I am all about paying for people. I went to this awesome presentation, even like years before I started a private practice that was called Building Your $1 Million Private Practice. And I had no interest in private practice at the time, but I liked the title of it. And I thought, let me see what this is all about. And one piece of advice stuck with me. And it was about think about the value of your time. Like say
Mm-hmm.
you see a client and you make $150 or whatever, or 200 or 100, doesn't matter. Like just what's your hourly rate? And then do you, as the business owner, want to be emptying your own garbage, or do you want to be doing your website or doing your taxes or your social media or whatever the task is, like moving furniture around or decorating? And if you could just see one or two clients, how many hours of time can you pay for someone to help you? Like, what's their hourly
Right.
rate? And
Right.
so the woman was like, pay for help and focus on what you're really good at. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, like, to me, that was life changing because I tend to like not want to spend a lot of money. And like,
Same.
but then I realized, wait, like I can pay for someone to come in and help decorate my offices and give me advice on that. I can pay for someone to clean the offices. I need a website. Let me pay for someone. Okay, I have an employee law issue. I don't want to Google that. Like there are ramifications.
Mm-hmm.
I want to pay for a really good attorney to advise me on this. I need support. So I want to pay for a good business coach. I want to get therapy because I need it. And I want to see that person. I did like the Dare to Lead Brene Brown class. Do you know what I mean? So I just like keep investing in
Mm-hmm.
supporters of the business so that I can focus on what I'm really good at that brings me joy. Because if I just try to stretch myself so thin and do everything, which some practice owners do because they're trying to save money,
Did do. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
We're just
Mm-hmm.
going to burn ourselves out if we
Yep.
do that. So I'm really big on like, let's get help. We don't
Yeah.
have to do this alone. And I think I learned that through my own therapeutic journey, my own healing journey, is that I can ask for help
Yeah.
and it's okay. And that also contributed to me developing a leadership team at the practice and trusting other people to
Mm-hmm.
supervise, to be in leadership roles, etc. That it's okay. Like I can trust
Right.
people to support the practice. It doesn't have to be me for everything.
Right. And it's just a little anecdote when my husband Rich, you know him and listeners will get to know him because I always talk about him, but when Rich was in school in social work school, I've had, let's see, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 offices now in the 10 years that I had the practice. And when Rich was in school and he was hearing his fellow interns complain about like, oh, they had to like go file something and that wasn't getting them training for social work. He was literally like, do you know that owning a practice for yourself actually just means putting together furniture and moving all the time? That's what it means to own a practice. And I was like, thank you. Thank you for spreading the gospel that all I do is like put furniture together.
Yeah, sure. There are so many things you do as a group practice owner that you never
Mm-hmm.
thought you would need to do. But essentially,
Oh my God, please tell your poop story.
yeah, okay.
Please tell the poop story.
Okay. So this is hilarious. During the pandemic, there were just two people at the office, and it was myself and one of our practicum trainees, Ruby. And we were there doing virtual. Everyone else was at home, but we needed the private office space of the practice. And so she came to me and she's like, Bianka, I'm not sure about this, but there's something kind of disgusting by the front door. And I was like, oh, okay, let's see what it is. And someone had pooped on the front door, like sliding down the window, right? And then I was like, oh no, you can't do this. You can't do this. And I was like, kind of like, oh my God, this is terrible, right? And then all of a sudden I realized, wait a second, someone pooped on my business. Oh no, they didn't. So then all of a sudden I was like, oh no, they didn't, and then I was like, no one poops on my business, so then I kind of like had this like turn around, and then Ruby was like, I'll help you. And I was like, oh my, no, you're a practicum student. This isn't a part of your training. I don't want, no, I just kind of felt uncomfortable with that. And she's like, no, I'm going to help you. And I was like, okay. So then we like rolled up our sleeves and then I like got a bucket and started like throwing it. And then
hopefully you also put gloves on maybe.
Yeah. I think I did. Yeah. And then, so anyway, we took care of it. And I just said, that is never in a million years something I thought that I would need to do or want to do. But I did it. So I felt like a badass for doing that. And I realized after the fact, this comes to the lesson of asking for help. That's something the landlord would have done.
But not as quickly.
True, because it happened another time. And we called the landlord and they took care of it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, this is also a lesson of, do we want a storefront business? Like, these are questions you never thought you'd have to think about, but we do.
Never. But
oh my God.
Luckily in the neighborhood, I had seen something similar, but it was like someone had written on a window in the neighborhood with their feces.
With caca.
Yeah, exactly. And so then luckily it had entered my mind as like, this happens, because otherwise I think I would have been like a little bit like way thrown off. So yeah, I mean, I feel proud that I took care of that. It's like the non-glamorous side of, but I didn't want that on my business. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I was like, no, this is not happening.
It was metaphorical and literal, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Well, so the title of this episode should be Shit Happens.
Shit happens, because it actually does.
Because it actually does. Oh my God. Do you know what's just around the corner? It's Anne's anniversary, being part of Conversations with a Wounded Healer. And we are celebrating the anniversary with a giveaway for anybody who wants to write an Apple Podcast review between March 6th and April 24th of 2024. So go to Apple Podcast, whether it's on your phone or your laptop, search for Conversations with the Wounded Healer, click on the show and scroll down until you see ratings and reviews. Tap Write a Review and tell us what you think about the show. Then you'll screenshot your review and email it to me at sarah@headheartbiztherapy.com. Now, I know you're thinking, what are the giveaways already? Well, very exciting. You will be entered into a drawing to win 1-hour sessions with both Anne and me. Anne will give you a choice between a private yoga class or a travel consultation session. And with me, you can choose between a 1-hour business coaching session or a Reiki session. Submissions must be received by 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time on April 24th. The winner will be announced on social media on May 1st, and Anne and myself will reach out to you to schedule your sessions. So please enjoy our anniversary giveaway and celebrate our little Anne Remy. Well, other than people literally shitting on your practice, like what are some other challenges that you've come up against as an owner that you feel are really important that other practice owners maybe hadn't thought of, or they think they're struggling alone? Anything come to mind?
Well, now that we've gotten into my more younger side of myself laughing about this, I just want to say another example was finding a dead rat at the back of the practice, and me and another practice member needed to take a shovel, and so it's like these things that you like Okay, so that's weird. That's the weird side of things. So
Oh my
other
God.
challenges, gosh, where to start? I mean, money is a challenge. I would say I remember that meeting, Sarah, where we had someone's attorney come in and talk to us about the legalities
We
related
were
to having
crying.
1099 employees. And I was so thankful that it had been kind of on my radar a little bit, like as an issue. And I kind of felt like I do 1099 just like everybody else, right? That
Right.
was just the thing to
Because that's
do at
what
the
you
time.
did.
That's what
Yeah.
everyone did, right?
Yep.
And so then when this person came in, it just validated for me that I wasn't in alignment. It just felt a little bit like, but I remember at that meeting, people were rocking, because like,
Oh, I was crying.
yeah.
Yeah.
Crying,
And other
rocking,
people were crying. Yeah.
because like it just felt so overwhelming
Yeah.
to think about this shift. And I remember people were saying this isn't fair. Other people do this. I think in challenges, things aren't fair sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Things don't make
Yeah.
sense. And so, like, how do you manage to be in alignment with what's expected legally and ethically, professionally, and kind of honor the work that we do? And so, for that, it felt like I am a rule follower and I want to be in compliance. That's what I want for myself and my business. I want to be on the up and up at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
yet the challenge was how to do it
Yeah. How to transition.
in a way that honored the employees and the business. And I remember it was so difficult because
Mm-hmm.
therapists aren't trained in finances or money. Like I certainly wasn't, right? And so then anytime you modify the way someone's pay is structured,
Yep.
there's going to be major ripples,
Yep.
and like people have reactions to that. And that's normal. That makes
And
total
that's
sense because
normal.
it's like part of their security. And we're saying we're changing something. And so I took
Right.
great care in working with a numbers person. Like I consulted, I paid someone to help me
Yep.
create something that was comparable pay wise because I didn't want people to get a pay cut because of this. But numerically, the numbers are going to look different because we're taking on more money. The business then takes on more
The
money for a
taxes.
variety of things, the
Right.
taxes, workman's comp,
Mm-hmm.
liability insurance, malpractice insurance,
Yep.
etc. So I think money's a challenge and making sure you're creating something that's sustainable is
Yes.
really important because I think there are a lot of practices that started around 2020, 2021, 2022 that maybe started off as only virtual practices, didn't have like a physical location, but maybe were offering pay that wasn't sustainable
Yes.
for them in the long run. And I want to be around in the long run. So I want to be really thoughtful about
Mm-hmm.
pay issues. So I think that's a challenge for sure.
Yep.
Another challenge is just working with humans is challenging. Like being a human is challenging.
Especially
You know what I
these
mean?
days.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so like I think what's really important to me is really understanding my psychological makeup and my triggers and my strategies because they're there for really good reasons, but they might not always help me as a practice owner.
Yeah.
And so what I see is employee challenges, which if you're on the Facebook forums, you'll see all sorts of challenges
Oh,
that
yeah.
come up. To me, I like to view it as what's coming up in me that I'm challenged by this and what can I learn and how I can respond versus focusing on the employee and what's wrong with them or whatever. Like I have more leverage with myself and working through something with the employee challenges if I take responsibility for my own reaction. And I've learned so much with people sharing concerns with me and even if they're like dissatisfied, like I just learned so much. I feel like it's really valuable information. And of course, I like things to be more flow, even flow. And I like, I'm kind of a calm person. I like this. But when things are going like this, I think that's just normal. And we lived through pandemic. Well, we lived through Trump being elected.
Mm-hmm.
We lived through a pandemic. the 2020 election, George Floyd, and there's so much coming up in the macro system
Mm-hmm.
that it just makes sense that we're all struggling. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think like those struggles are real. And that's been a challenge as a practice owner is like, how do I stay connected to myself and be the best boss that I can be? And sometimes that means like I'm trying to be the best when I'm compromised as a
Mm-hmm.
human.
Right.
Like I've been going through perimenopause in the past year and like I haven't been sleeping. I've had brain fog, health concerns. I just haven't, this has probably been the worst year, of my life in terms of like my physical, mental, emotional health.
Yeah.
The pandemic was rough, but I was going through that with lots of people. This is like just my individual journey.
Yeah.
But like, how do I show up as a boss going through something when I'm not fully myself, or like
Right.
making lots of mistakes? And that's been an unexpected challenge that I've learned so much about because I've learned to give myself grace. I've learned to be more okay with mistakes, be
Yeah.
compassionate for the compromised part of
Yep.
myself. And so, as I've been more vulnerable and shared these challenges with others and my staff, I've been met with caring and compassion, which has been really beautiful.
And there's a difference between, because I want to make this very clear. It's not that, because I know you and you're not going to the staff and being like, oh, feel sorry for me because I'm going through all this stuff. But it's because you're connected to yourself, because you're really aware of what's happening for you internally, and you've got enough ego strength to recognize when you're not doing your best or the best that you would want to do, that you can take ownership of that. And with that marriage of vulnerability and honesty and integrity, I'm really glad that the staff are meeting you back with that compassion, because they don't owe it to you. But how beautiful when you can have that relational experience with your staff, when they allow you to be human and imperfect too.
Exactly. So, and I noticed like in the beginning, I wasn't really sure what was happening, but I just noticed things were really mentally hard and I didn't feel right. And I wasn't great with making decisions. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I mean, it's like you want to be selective and intentional about what you're sharing with people and when.
Yep.
And so I'm not running into the sharing, but I'm not avoiding it either,
Mm-hmm.
and like, in the absence of information, people fill in with their own stories, right? So like it's just part of who we are. Like,
Right.
say someone doesn't text you back, right? I mean, even a friend, and you're like,
They must hate me.
you can make up all these stories. Exactly. But what if the reality is they're just super busy or they're not feeling great or they're having work or personal problems? You know what I mean? So I do think as a leader, some amount of sharing is needed, especially if you're not on your game. And we don't need to be on our game at all times. That's an unrealistic expectation. That's just not,
Right.
that's part of like hustle culture or whatever. Like there needs to be times where we, got to take our foot off the gas a little bit. And sometimes we need to coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this went really quick. The last question that I wonder if you can answer for listeners, because I also think it's important to really recognize like what we intend. Like when we all start our businesses, we've got pie in the sky dreams of like what this is going to be and how it's going to fulfill everything. I'm really curious if you can compare and contrast for yourself what you envisioned versus what you created 10 years later now.
Yeah. I feel like what I envisioned was what has manifested, actually. And so I was thinking about this question. I didn't know this question particularly was coming per se, but I was just thinking about like the importance of intentionality and like really what's my why?
Yeah.
And like that is a part of trauma stewardship is understanding our why. And I think if you're going to start a group practice, the why needs to be something close to your heart versus a monetary thing because the work is really hard. And my why is we are better together. And the work that we do is so important that I think it's important to support one another as therapists in the important work that we do. and that it can't be done alone, and that community is so important and lifelong learning. And so I don't think when I started, I had it all mapped out to the specifics of what is now.
Yeah.
This has exceeded my expectations.
That's what I was going to say. You created more than what you set out to. Yeah.
Exactly. And like the layers of support and the intentionality, I just feel really happy about what has been co-created. Because even though I'm the owner, this could not have been done without all of the employees who work for CTC in the past. Like I'm so thankful to those who have worked for the practice in the past and their contributions, and who are working now, and that it's a co-creation, and like people are so creative, and I love collaborating and coming together. And I just feel like we can't do this in isolation. Like collaborating and communicating and creating is just so magical. And it's really great. I feel really happy. There are so many struggles. You know this. I don't want to say group practice ownership is utopia, because it's certainly not.
Nope.
But if you are in like a group like us, the badass female practice owners, you get consultation, you're creating a leadership team, you're getting your own therapy and your own support. And I think it needs to be with real people. Like, I think the Facebook forums are okay, but like a lot of times people come with questions that we need context to answer, and it's not a quick sentence. Do you know what I mean? So I think like what you're doing with the groups that you have, Sarah, I mean, I think those are invaluable, and the services that you offer. And so I think like we just need more togetherness. And I am excited about, for my practice, the togetherness that has been created and what we will continue to create kind of in the next 10 years of the practice.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with me. Always love to see you and celebrate you. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. Well, I'm honored to be invited to be a part of your series, and I just always appreciate being with you as well.
Thanks for listening to the special Burnt Out Practice Owner series. If you want more information about today's guest, go to our website at www.headheartbiztherapy.com/podcast. Thanks to the Creative Imposter Studios for editing, and I'm your host, Sarah Bueno. Until next time, bye-bye.